Hi, this is your host. This is a series where we take a look at real historical events and people and try to answer the question, what if? In this episode, we're going to be exploring what life was really like for prehistoric humans. When we imagine a prehistoric human, we tend to picture a creature that looks something like this, or maybe this. Ultimately, we decided to err on the side of realism and went with the smooth look. Since humans don't have as much body hair as other primates, we rely on goosebumps to keep ourselves warm. Chimpanzees and bonobos have more body hair than humans, but significantly less than other great apes. This suggests that the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees, who would have lived around 6 million years ago, likely had even less body hair. Our ancestors would have relied on their body hair to keep them warm, and so they wouldn't have needed goosebumps to the same extent that we do today. Again, we'll have to fall back on studying our closest relatives for an answer. And again, we find ourselves looking at chimpanzees and bonobos specifically. However, there's evidence that prehistoric humans were making cordage, which is a type of string used for tying things together, as far back as 40,000 years ago. Cordage would have been extremely useful for making clothing, so it's likely that prehistoric humans were wearing some sort of garments at this point. Male chimps will sometimes strip leaves off of branches and use them as whips to herd members of their troop together. This suggests that our ancestors may have used plants as early as 3 million years ago, long before the first primitive stone tools were developed. But the truth is that many prehistoric human settlements were quite large. The largest prehistoric settlement ever found was the city of Gobustan, which was located in what is now Azerbaijan. Gobustan was home to around 50,000 people during the late Paleolithic era, around 12,000 years ago. At its peak, this makes Gobustan the largest city in the world for around 5,000 years. Of course, just because we get goosebumps doesn't mean that we don't also have body hair. So this isn't evidence against prehistoric humans being furry. Some anthropologists believe that the earliest clothing was probably made from animal skins, while others believe that early humans may have preferred plant-based materials such as flax or hemp. Unfortunately, most clothing made from these types of materials wouldn't survive the passage of time, so we may never know for sure what the first garments were like. But it does suggest that they would not have been as hairy as some of the depictions we've seen. That's because while there's a lot of debate about whether prehistoric humans had body hair, there's no debate that at least some hominids did. And based on the fact that modern humans are anatomically descended from those ancient hominids, we can safely say that our ancestors probably looked a bit like us, more or less. The idea of early humans covered in thick, luscious locks of hair is ingrained into our culture so deeply that even the Oxford English Dictionary includes an 1879 illustration of a hairy man in its definition of the word primitive. But the truth is that it's unclear whether prehistoric humans were more like Tarzan or like this. We tend to think of our ancestors in the Stone Age as either hairless apes or else hairy barbarians. But what if they were actually scaly? First off, there's the issue of body hair. When making this video, we went back and forth between thinking that we should use CGI to make our prehistoric humans look hairy and realistic, or to make them smooth and sleek like modern humans. One piece of evidence for this is the existence of goosebumps. Another piece of evidence comes from studying our closest relatives, the chimpanzee and the bonobo. Okay, so our ancestors were probably not super hairy, but what kind of clothes did they wear? The oldest known clothing found to date is a pair of sandals made from animal hide that were discovered in a Russian cave and dated to be around 10,000 years old. But what kind of clothes did they wear? We tend to think of prehistoric humans as living in small tribes and relying on hunting and gathering for food. Of course, prehistoric humans weren't the first to settle in large groups. So there you have it. What life was really like for prehistoric humans. Hopefully this video has helped you to see our ancestors in a new light. Perhaps they weren't so different from us after all. I'm the host. This has been What If? And this has been a Wondrium production. Thanks for watching.